Your attention, please. The panel is about to begin. John Machina has left the building.
So I'm a little rusty at this. It's been 19 years since my last BotCon panel that I've been on, BotCon 96. So I'm a little rusty. I've got a few friends here. Let everyone introduce themselves. I'm Ryan Esquerdo, the owner of Sabertron.com. Thank you. And I've got a few guests here with me, and I'll let everyone introduce themselves.
Starting this way, go that way?
Yeah, we'll go that way.
Hi, I'm John Bailey. I'm a professional voice actor, and I got started. My interest got sparked by hearing Peter Cullen when I was a kid, actually introducing Voltron, Defender of the Universe. And it led to this awesome career, and I've done thousands of jobs. I've been the voice of Transformers. The only official job I've ever done was the voice of Anakin in the Darth Vader Anakin Star Wars Transformers crossover figure. You're welcome. And I've done a lot of stuff online. I've done a lot of Transformers parodies and things, and that became a big thing. Yeah, and then in the YouTube community, there's a lot of Transformers reviewers out there. I do Pride reviews, and it's become a thing. And I'm on this stupid thing called Honest Trailers. It's a thing. And now that E3 is out, I can announce that I will be in Dishonored 2 and XCOM 2 as well. So,
well, hey, I'm Jason Lucas, one of the Lucas brothers, co-founder of Unicron.com.
George Lucas is your brother?
Yeah.
That's awesome.
I have an Uncle George and a Grandpa George, but they're not that George, sadly, you know. Yeah, co-founder of Unicron.com, and I've been around for a while in the fandom, and it's a pleasure to be here. Yeah.
Great.
Yeah, I'm Robbie Musso. I'm a fan artist turned comic book artist turned freelance artist. So yeah, I just pretty much started around the online community around 2002, and just kind of kept posting artwork, and now I'm up here.
Everyone, I'm Ben Yee, Ben's World of Transformers, BWTF.com. I transformed from a geek to a bigger geek, and then back.
We're all professional geeks.
That's right. True.
I'm Claire Peterson. I'm Rotor Storm on the Sabertron.com podcast.
And she's here to look pretty.
I really needed it.
So we did have a nice little slide that Ben put together. I don't know where it is, but we'll just kind of wing our agenda. So, like I said, 19 years ago at BotCon 96, I was on a fanzine panel, if that tells you how times have changed. And I had a little fanzine that I ran for 4 years prior to Sabertron.com called Transform. And I originally built my subscriber list from the old Marvel Comics letter pages, and I went through every single one of them I had, got everyone's address and name, and sent them out free initial copies of my Transform magazine, or newsletter, whatever you want to call it. And that eventually led to Sabertron 4 years later. So, you know, I think what we kind of want to talk about just is maybe...
Yeah, can I be the old fogey?
Yes, please.
You can be the resident old fogey.
No, it's your boy. We can get
like,
so, in the before time, when dinosaurs...
Before time began.
Actually, I'm glad you mentioned the Marvel Comics page, because the Marvel Comics letters page is where I first connected to a fellow fan who was running a newsletter / mailing list, and all it was here's some Transformers news and here's my views on something, and 4 pages of it was just, here are fans who are okay with you just randomly sending letters to them and saying, hi, I'd like to be pen pals and talk about Transformers. That eventually evolved into, who remembers Prodigy? Tell me I'm not the only one.
Oh, Prodigy.
Yeah.
Wow.
All right, so Prodigy, discussion boards, BBCs, then it turned into mailing lists. And this was the beginning of what we now take for granted, right? Twitter, Facebook. It's easy to find a fan now. Type in the search term Transformers in Facebook, and it's like 300 things come up, right? Some of them are not porn. And now it's easy to connect, but back then, you could take effort. I mean, I had a fellow fan in the UK that I used to correspond with regularly. It took 1 month for us to basically have a conversation, because would send a letter to him. It took 2 weeks to get to him. Then he'd write back immediately. Then it took 2 weeks to get back to me. And nowadays we're so used to up-to-the-minute news. Back then it was like, yeah, that thing that happened 2 months ago, that's great, that's new. Eventually Usenet comes about, All Toys Transformers. It's a Usenet group that was a heavy, heavy focal point. And I think Ryan was, I think all of us here at some point touched it. And that was kind of the fan gathering place online of its day. And that's where, around the time I started my website, which was on like an old college server. It wasn't VWTF back then. It was like AC Web something, diphthong something. But you know, those are humble beginnings, and I feel blessed to be part of a fandom where I can come to a place like this, randomly stand online with you guys, and we just start talking. And it's like, oh yeah, that really cool thing, or that really obnoxious thing. Like, more of those conversations happen than any others. But it's so great to be here, because for us, we interact online. We're all electronic interaction, right? But when we get to interact with folks in person, it's an extraordinary thing. So none of this is to take away from that, but you should appreciate the rich history that there is that led up to you guys sitting in these seats.
Chirp, chirp. Are we going in turns, or are we just talking about how we got into this?
Well, just real quick, so back in the day when I was doing my Transform newsletter, Ben, one of my first contacts from him was he sent me via snail mail news for my newsletter from his relatively new site back in '96 or whatever.
Yeah, I started around late 95-ish.
And the exciting news I received in the snail mail that an upcoming episode of Beast Wars, Possession, and Starscream is going to be in it. And I was like, oh my god, this is the greatest thing in the world.
Let me tell you, I don't like we went there with that. We as a fan, you know how now you can actually just go to the Hasbro booth and sit there, so it might actually affect stuff.
Oh, yeah.
20 years ago, that was like, no one there's going to listen to us. They don't think we know anything, you know? And half of fandom had disappeared because everyone went to college, and I want frat parties, not toys. And oh, how many people regret that now? But you know, that online forum, those of you who were there remember, but that's when we started making our presence known as a fandom, and collectively through print newsletter, through the website, and so on. And people who worked on the show, Beast Wars at the time, began to take notice and said, wait a minute, these guys, there's an audience here, and they're not new kids. These are the guys who've been with it since the beginning. And I had a very special personal interaction with the story editors, Larry DiTilio and Bob Forward, on Beast Wars, and we corresponded on a lot. And it wasn't just that, oh yay, a fan gave them some ideas or whatever. It wasn't just that. It was that through them, that Hasbro suddenly realized, oh, you're talking to the fans and they're actually giving you stuff you're using? Well, we should start doing that. And then Hasbro started attending BotCon and becoming where we have these huge booths and a huge presentation after this. That, I mean, I think if it weren't for online fandom guys, all of us up here, that wouldn't exist. And it's an extraordinary thing. I mean, think about how many other fandoms, other interests you may have. Not even just toys, any interest you have. Let's say you're really into Corvettes. How many of you has input into the manufacture of a Corvette? You know, but toys.
Well, they transformed into tracks.
One guy out there.
Yeah. You know, we didn't get Combiner Wars because they developed that in a vacuum. We got Combiner Wars because for years, we and all of you have been saying, you know what'd be great, but you're not going to do that. And then Hasbro one day said, that's what you think. So
that made it like.
Oh, I remember the days when, I mean, we were just, you were thirsting for more interaction with people, and the ACC boards and everything were great, but then it was text, we were bouncing things back, you're writing letters, and I'm sending emails and things, and at the point where search engines start to actually be able to find stuff, you know, 99% of everything you find online was about electrical transformers.
Yes.
It's like,
or train.
In 2005, if you typed in Transformers into the search engine.
For me, it was like this oasis. I found Van Yee's site, Dave Van Dalman's site, and I thought, well, we could do that too. And so, you know, I started doing some toy alterations, is how Unicron.com started, and I just thought, we got to share this. So at the time, digital cameras, I don't think they were around yet. I put some of my toy alterations on a scanner bed and pressed go and shared them that way. And you know, it evolved from there, but it became like now we can share in this excitement in not just a conversational experience, but in a pictorial one. And
actually, this is huge. Quick shout out, Dave Von Bemelen, first website that I know of for reviews. He's still around. He still does his text reviews. The man is so detailed, so great, so dedicated, so smart. I give him a lot. If it weren't for him, my site wouldn't exist. I'm going to say that right now. So he deserves props.
Well, thanks for that. 20 years I've been mispronouncing his last name.
I mean, he's not here to argue with me. But when Jason brought up pictures, you brought up pictures. So now we go to BotCon, and it's like, if you as fans, and this is a realistic expectation, you expect Ryan to have at least 400 pictures up before he's gotten off his plane. And then by the time he gets exclusive, you want 1,000 more. And again, this is a realistic expectation now. The bandwidth on the internet exists that in a hotel room, he could upload those galleries.
And where we're at now, it's unreal. Like, you could probably get online and see John Machida and Seuss Blue answering the question about how they would order at a drive up. It's online, you know, already.
When I was a teenager, when they put the cast list up on the cartoons, they didn't even put the names of the characters they did. We didn't know. There was no, you type in a search engine and try to figure it out kind of thing. You just kind of had to, I wonder if this is that person or this is that person. That's kind of how I got interested in it in the first place. I was like, man, I would really like to know who the guy is that does this character and this character. And I know that that's the same person doing these three guys. And my brother actually started working on an early search engine for called ODP. And that's a Google subsidiary, and it started compiling information about the voice actors. And as we started learning more about the people that were in the show, I've always wanted to give something back to something that inspired me as a kid. So I wanted to do these dubs, funny things like Dr. Smooth had done. And so I came up with the idea for Transformers Unsolved Mysteries because it dawned on me that Robert Stack was not only the voice of Ultra Magnus, but he's also the host of Unsolved Mysteries, and Ultra Magnus Unsolved Mysteries. So, and I was like, wouldn't it be funny to have like a host that points out all the plot holes of all the cartoons and stuff? So that's where I developed Transformers Unsolved Mysteries. And after I made it, I was like, I wished I could show this to people because I made it for me. But I was like, man, I bet other Transformers fans would like this. So I started trying to figure out where that was, and I found TFW. I was like, wow, there's a site with all these other fans on it. And I met a few friends there, and then I met Ryan. And then I found out that there was actually a convention for Transformers. I didn't know, but I learned all this stuff as I went along. And Ryan and I met in 2010, and he's like, he's a nice guy, but does a pretty good Optimus Prime. That's about it.
It's like, oh, it's another fan that can do an Optimus Prime voice. Oh boy.
And then he heard me doing movie trailers on TV. He's like, wait a minute, is that the same guy? And then we became friends. He's like, hey, we heard of my site. And I was like, you mean there's more than one site? And then I found out about, T-Formers and all these other places. I was like, man, I can share all this other stuff. And then other people's like, man, I really love this stuff. Would you consider doing something else? And it just kind of grew bigger and bigger and bigger. And so that was kind of my way in. And now I'm sitting on the opposite side where I used to sit, where I was out there, listening to other people up here talking about it.
And John, you hit a huge word there, which is share, right? I mean, that was the big
thing.
Back then, images, whatever, how did we share it? We had no idea. Everything was mailing.
The thought hadn't really crossed our mind about what the potential was because nobody else was doing it yet. But we dumped, hours and hours, days and weeks and months of our lives into just the passion and joy of these figures, and whether it's altering them or coming up with the voices or drawing them. And like this guy, we just love this property. We love these figures. And here we are like sitting by ourselves and like, this is really cool. And we're just dumping our lives into this because it's awesome. And now we can share that with people. And when we started to catch the flavor of that, we were like, oh, this is cool.
Yeah, I remember.
And you just want to spend more time.
Yeah, I remember, just coming back around to, learning more about Transformers probably in the late 90s. And, there was no online community as far as I understood. So, I did sort of feel isolated. Like, wow, I'm like this, 20-year-old guy who likes Transformers,
Do you guys remember it used to be like, when I first found out about BotCon, I was like, what? There's other people out there playing Transformers besides me? Like,
so I thought I was a minority.
So when I discovered the internet, and I started just searching around. I'm like, well, Transformers, because I was still into it, and by that time I'd already created fan characters. So I started searching around online, and I realized, wow, apparently I'm not the only, adult who still follows all this
Plays
stuff.
with toys.
Yeah, exactly.
We're all hiding in our closets.
Me and my brothers.
Yeah,
That was
yeah,
it.
really. And I remember I got an Autobot sticker for my car, and it was like some little local sticker shop had it, like a vinyl label shop, and I was like, holy crap! There's actually an Autobot symbol that I can put on my car. And it was funny, like I put it on there, and every so often somebody would be like, oh dude, Transformers. I'd be like, oh wow, this actually kind of still is a thing that people remember. It just wasn't so much in the public and mainstream eye. So with the internet and the online communities, Sabretron.com was the first. I signed up for my email account to register on Sabretron.com. That was my first email, which I still have. And
Nice.
that was why I got an
At
email.
Netscape.net.
Yeah, right. So, but it just blew my mind at how much Transformer, as a whole in the community and in the world, was really just so open. And there were so many of us out there. It was just really completely fascinating and really life altering. I mean, my life hasn't been the same since I've, really joined this community. It's become my life pretty much.
Hey Claire, you've been awfully quiet, Emma.
And I was actually going to comment on that because growing up, being a female and being so passionate about Transformers, there was no outlet for me. Try and go to school and try and talk to people about this stuff. They look at you like, what? So being a part of the online community and finding more fans that were just as passionate as me was amazing. It was great to be able to go on and have a conversation with people who could relate and who could carry on a conversation with you. Because growing up and being a female fan in this fandom has just been, in the beginning, it was so difficult. But to look out and see so many females in the audience, it's awesome.
And we all kind of come of a family. We all have some common interest, and so many of my friends, like really close friends, came from the love of this franchise.
Absolutely.
So I'm curious, show of hands, who has created or written or drawn or all of the above your own fan character? Who represents you or something like I have, right? How amazing is it that partly because of what has happened that we've been talking about, that most of the guys drawing Transformers now were fans.
Yeah.
They're us, right? And some fan characters are now toys. Come on, that's extraordinary.
They're just way better than most of us are at drawing things.
But not just the comics, but like the package art or whatever.
Yeah.
I mean, Robbie knows this experience. That's amazing. When I was asked to contribute to a comic or a TV show or whatever, I was like, oh, me! Why my opinion? And I think that's another extension. I like the word family.
Yeah.
I really do feel that way.
Well, yeah, I made a comment that you guys, I see you guys more than extended family now. It's like
I never see those jerks.
It's a hangout. I'm sure there's days that my wife feels like I see Transformers more than them, but
Ryan, you're not getting my Bud Light.
Although I've been in a few heated Transformers arguments that did feel like Thanksgiving dinner with that family.
It's like family with all its idiosyncrasies.
Yeah.
I've been reflecting on the topic of our panel, the 20 years of online fandom, and as I've been thinking about the one single biggest contributor that this emerging expression of being a fan has brought to all of us in this room, is that I remember the days where we sort of had to kind of wonder if people were what people were gonna think when you said you're a Transformers fan. And me and Brian and Kevin, my brothers, going through college at different times. Kevin had like a couple of Transformers that he kept in his closet, literally, and eventually his wife found out after they graduated that he's this like rabid Transformers fan. And then Brian's like a little bit more, you know, he's got him set up on his desk, and at this point, like, I'm making 3D designs on my computer in my dorm room, and I've got like a whole setup all over the place. And as that fandom emerged, you were able to sort of be more open about being a fan. I mean, it went from being like questionable, like you collect toys.
Yeah,
I think we all. Oh man,
there.
you got that big of a collection of Transformers? You are awesome, and it became cool.
Until somebody invented the word adult collectible, so it sounds better.
Yeah, but I think everybody here. I think.
You had more syllables.
Just about
it sounds
everybody
more
here has gone through that phase of checking out at Toys R Us and the cashier looking at you like,
for my nephew.
That was like, oh, is this for your son? No, this is for me. You know?
How old is your kid?
I used to be like, yes, it is, and then now I'm like, yeah, I love this stuff. When you coming?
I love when you're at the store, like, would you like a gift receipt for that? I'm like, no, these are for me. Thanks.
Well,
like, no,
unless you can
I
use
know
them for
how
tax
much it costs.
deductions, like I do. So yeah.
Why would I need that?
I did have a random thought though. Earlier, we were talking about like the history of this. I can imagine Ryan, like 20 years ago, having to do 35mm and scanning 1,000 pictures per camera on those big flatbed scanners.
And waiting for them to get developed.
Well,
Exactly.
that was the old days of Sabertron. What started my site was the screen capture galleries, which.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, that was so. It's interesting to hear that you were scanning toys. I had a VHS machine hooked up to my
What's VHS?
my Packard Bell computer that I was
Packard Bell.
Yeah, that was my first piece. Oh my god! And you know, to have gone from that to you know, now I've taken, this is my camera that I got back in January 2012. I've taken about 250,000 photos of it.
Holy cow!
And
that's almost as much as I make every year. No, I'm kidding. In pictures, I get paid.
I'm obviously in the wrong business. It should not be a website owner. It should be a voice actor.
Yeah, really, because we make millions of dollars. unless you're Chris Rock, you know, we make $1 million.
So touching on what everyone just spoke about, I mean, we don't just want to like harp on the past and make you guys go, God, they're really old. Let's think about now, right? 2007, what happens? Live action movie, blockbuster. All of a sudden, it's okay to be a Transformers fan.
Yeah.
And these guys are talking about all of a sudden, instead of, oh, you collect those, but like you know, your voice has changed. You're older than 21. It became what these guys said, which is, oh yeah, that's cool. My favorite is blah. Someone did a YouTube video, I think around the time the first movie came out, and asked people, like, they just randomly walked up to people and said, do you remember Transformers? Can you sing the theme song? And everybody remembered at least a piece of it. Because now all of a sudden it became a nostalgic touchstone, but a touchstone that had an inflection point that launched into the present. And I mean, we're 5 films in, and Transformers is bigger than ever. It's one of the most successful brands out there. I mean, go to your toy store, how much space does it take up? I think it's an amazing thing to be able to say, I'm a Transformers fan, I'm proud of it, I don't have to hide it. And there was a time where you kind of had to hide it. It was like, oh,
Closet Transformer fan.
Yeah, you know, I don't know if anyone else is a fan. I'm kind of afraid people will judge me. Now it's like, yeah, I'm a fan, and so are like 3,000 other people that just showed up at VodCon. So what? Bring it. Yeah. And I think we're at a really interesting point because we're at the same time, we're in the age of the geek, right? I mean, how many superhero shows are on TV right now? You know, cartoons and movies. We are in the age where it is cool.
Is it safe to say that
Geek is the new cool.
Oh yeah.
Ever since the internet, it's like we took over. It's great.
Ever since
the world is a better place.
Ever since they decided to take the off Transformers, like in the Facebook movie, let's just drop the just Transformers. Yeah, it became trendy. I'm one of the kids at the table. By the way, I have Susan Blue's water. Yeah, it became trendy. It became a pop culture thing, and it's no longer just a fandom thing. It's a general audience thing. And like it or not, love it or hate the movies, they have helped our brand to become even way bigger than we could possibly imagine. Can you imagine if, because you know, originally Transformers comics were Marvel comics. Can you imagine if Marvel still had Transformers today? Holy cow! Oh man, yeah, pretty much.
I remember this moment where it was just like it really hit me what a cultural shift was going on when it was me and Ben and Ryan were at this like crazy weird exclusive first showing of like 15 minutes of the first movie. And it was like, there were a couple other web hosts, I can't remember, those were the guys we were sitting next to. And everybody else in the room is like wearing suits, and it's the CEO of Toys R Us, and it's
Walmart,
General Motors, and eBay, and marketing executives, and then like 5 super geeks. It was awesome. And I thought, this is it. Like, there's a major change going on when the 5 of us get invited to something like this. It was wild. And it's pretty much been like that ever since. I mean, we've been going to video game releases, and it's just
cool things.
It's a cool time in the world of Transformers,
really
and it's a cool time in the world when people with sort of a wonderfully freakish passion for something like Transformers, like myself and everybody up here, I think I can speak for it. You know, when they recognize that's sort of the culture influencers of the world, and that's the online community.
And somebody mentioned it earlier too. Look how many careers have become. This is your career now.
Yeah.
This is your career, right? I mean, I'm a professional voice actor because of this. I have at least a half dozen friends that are making a full-time living reviewing toys, Transformers toys on YouTube. That's a job, and our parents still don't understand it, but I mean that wouldn't be that's all a direct result because of the fandom.
Not my career, but I did have a mentor kind of person in my life that said to me, that knew I had a Transformers fan site, and he said, you should put that in your sort of resume thing, because it shows that you've got a good, like, healthy sense of boundaries, that you have good, healthy hobbies outside of this. And, like, when Transformers...
It wasn't considered healthy hobbies.
I was like, this is a good, healthy hobby. I'm like, man, that's...
It's healthy. My mother had me tested.
But I think modern day, right, another great way that folks can interact is via podcasts, which is huge and relatively recent phenomenon. I mean, you know, not something that's been around for a decade or anything like that. Claire's part of it. You want to chat a bit about like, the experience of being on a podcast?
Sure, yeah. I mean, I recently joined the Twincast podcast on Sabertron, and it's been a great outlet for me, you know, to be able to sit in my little collection room and chat about these toys that bring so much joy to my life. And I mean, it's been wonderful.
And I've sat in on a couple of podcasts, Rated Through Cybertron, the Repacked podcast, and you know, there's something magical to me. Someone who came from the era that I described before, dinosaurs over here, where I got these 5 guys on Skype or something, and one guy's in Australia, one guy's in the UK, or whatever. It's nuts to me, and we're just going back and forth, and I'm like, they're packaging this. People want to hear this. They actually care about what I think with these guys, and you know, it's such a great back and forth. It's not all one guy. It's how we all play off each other, and the one thing everyone has in common is passion. I mentioned the Repacked podcast a moment ago. They're not really a Transformers podcast. They're an action figure podcast. So I'm usually brought in as the Transformers guy, but another guy.
So they talk about dolls and stuff.
Yeah, another guy's like the Joe guy, or there's like a Voltron guy or whatever, Power Rangers guy. But what we all share is a passion. So even if we say, oh, I don't really collect that, when the guy's like losing his mind over the figure, I know that feeling. I think we all do in this room. And I'm like, I know that look on his face. I understand that tone of voice. I'm all in on this. And you get excited for each other. I think that's something wonderful that fans do. There's no like handbook. I mean, there is a fan handbook. I didn't get it. But I know that I can walk up to probably anyone in this room, ask you, what are you excited about? And you just get worked up. I will get worked up with you because I'm like, you are happy. We're sharing this fan moment. And that's just amazing. I think podcasts are a huge part of it. You got to get to geek out with your friends, right? And then you know, as someone's like going to work in their car, whatever, they listen to the podcast, now they're geeking out with you. How crazy is that?
Yeah, I'd also like to add that the podcasters, I really want to thank all you guys, like from the Sabertron podcast and actually Radio Free Cybertron over there, and WTF and TFW, like all these podcasts, I listen to all you guys while I'm working. So like, you guys have no idea what's being like done, what's being made while you're basically.
There's kids in the audience.
Yeah, really. No, really. Like as far as designing stuff, just things that are in production. It's you guys provide enjoyment and discussion and topics and just all that while I'm working. So I listen to that. That's what I do. I tune in like to all the podcasts, and that's what I'm listening to while I'm working. Because what else am I do? I can't watch a movie because I have to be looking at this screen. So I listen to radio talk about Transformers. So it's really awesome. I just want to thank all the podcasters out there. Really.
You're welcome.
If we could get every single lead team member of the websites and online expressions of the fandom up here, I mean, the whole stretch of this conference room would be packed, and that's a real joy. I mean, to go from one of the first three to now there's dozens and dozens and dozens of not just sites but communities and groups and things. There's just so much more to engage in, and so you can say podcast is your way of consuming that Transformer goodness. Then there's a variety to choose from, and if you're like Rob, then you listen to them all, and it's good.
And Transmissions podcast too, if you're out there somewhere.
No, Rob, we were talking
Just dropping names.
We were talking earlier about DeviantArt a little bit, and I think you've got a really unique story to share in terms of here you were a fan and now you're designing Transformers. I think they'd like to hear a little bit about it.
Well, I mean, that's not really. I guess there is a lot to say, but I still consider myself a fan artist, but that's pretty much how I got started in this madness. But yeah, I started posting artwork on DeviantArt, and then eventually I went to Comic-Con and pitched my portfolio to IDW, and then started talking to Hasbro. So I freelance for Hasbro now. So and it's not really just toy design. It's conceptual things and just it's been an amazing road from just doing fan characters and just making stories up to actually going to behind the scenes and and seeing certain things actually make it into production. I mean, there's really nothing quite like a feeling of working on something and then a year later seeing it on the shelf. So again, we're at the fan panel, but I owe it all to the online fandom and the online communities, because without that, there's no way that somebody like me would have had access to all that. So,
and I think it's so cool that I ran into you the other day after you were picking up your package, and Robbie's there buying one of his own prints. his own Baccarat exclusive. I think it's so cool that
I did not expect that, and I saw it, and I was like, oh wow, they printed all 5.
I know this guy that drew that.
Really good.
Yeah. Just think about looking into that as a job or something.
Yeah, right.
I would say one more thing. I would say that I went from feeling all alone to feeling included, having other people that shared something that I did.
Absolutely.
That's the greatest feeling in the world. When you get rejected or you get bullied as a kid, and now I can go back to my high school reunion and be like, ha! It was the one way that I felt like I was part of something, and I was always felt by myself. My brothers are 8 and 11 years older than I am, respectively, so I didn't have anybody to play with when I was a kid. There was nobody in my neighborhood. It was very, very few children. They lived pretty far away, so I was all alone. And my dad worked 2 full-time jobs, basically, and I never saw him. My mom, she worked as well, so I pretty much just kind of played to myself. And actually, that's how I got started doing voices. I had a Fisher-Price tape recorder, and I took coloring books for Transformers and reenacted them with all the different voices. So when I was 5, I was like, my name is Optimus Prime. And I got a little better. And that's how I got interested in that. And it was awesome to find that it was, and this is just a fraction of what's out there.
Do your Prime voice. I already did, but you missed it.
We got the 10-minute mark probably 5 minutes ago. One of the things I thought it would be interesting to end on would just be sharing a couple of brief comments about what are maybe our hopes for the fandom as it continues to evolve. What might the future hold, and in what ways can we contribute as a fandom to that? There's a lot out there, and I tossed that out on email so that hopefully people had a chance to think about it a little bit.
I think about it every day. So.
Yeah, me too.
Good. I'm ready to go.
I mean, so for me, I'll start it out. Was I was just thinking about here. We started out as just like pen pals and texting each other fanzines, and then it became we're scanning things and sharing a 2D experience, and that got better and better and better. Then video came in. Now you can see panelists. You can share all that immediately. And I think, where we're seeing the world going with virtual reality and 3D printers right in your house, like I think in the next 10 years we're going to see a major transition in what it means to be a fan that we can share in a 3D experience that's not just off the shelf, but it's, hey, like my buddy designed this, or you put on your goggles or your phone or whatever it is, and whatever those people invent for us, and we can share a 3D show that we helped make. I mean, there's people doing these amazing stop motion things, and I don't know. I think that there's going to be an advent of something new coming.
Do you want to take that?
I guess I'm not sure what the future holds necessarily for my website. I hope it continues to do well, and thanks to you guys. But it's the 3D printing. I think that's I don't know where it's going to go, but buying a kit that you can get at the store to print your own toy at home is, I think that's where this will head eventually. I don't know. We'll see.
Clearly, Microsoft and Apple and nobody else knows where it's going either. But you go into these stores and they've got maker bot things, and it's like there's technology is ahead of itself at this point.
Yeah.
Fandom doesn't know what to do with it yet.
Well, and I also think with the with social media too, just like John getting to directly share videos with all of you right on YouTube, and anyone else that does YouTube or does podcasts, or I see all the Facebook groups that people participate on, and all the new ways that we can all communicate with each other. It's fascinating, and just Facebook's 7-8 years old now, and it's interesting to see like what's next, like what's the big thing that's around the corner that's gonna keep us all connected and keep us sharing our love of the Transformers brand.
A lot of the stuff that I wanted to see has happened. I mean, we clamored for good video games and we got them.
Yeah.
We clamored for better cartoons and we got them. So we clamored for the toys and they gave them to us. So I mean, the only thing that's left is to have a SaberCon.
That's right.
It's a pretty awesome era to be a Transformers fan.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, I think I'm still amazed at what we see every year. Like I don't think anybody saw Metroplex coming, as far as toys go, and then Combiner Wars Devastator is just completely mind-blowing. I can't believe we're getting a 6th Voyager class Constructicons. So as far as what to expect, I just can't wait to see what's on the horizon. I mean, it's just I can only imagine what we'll find out.
So here's my expectation, is not related to technology so much as just related to people. It's something that's happened already in fandom over the years. It's something that I hope will happen again, which is there is an older generation of fans now, but there's also a very young generation that's up and coming. Sometimes discussions online can get heated, but they're young, and I think I have already seen 2 generations of fans help shepherd in a younger generation, and that younger generation is now beginning to shepherd in the one coming after them. And believe it or not, the Armada, the Unicron trilogy generation is now old enough that they're starting to say to the RID generation, hey, youngin, let me help guide you a little bit. It's this wonderful community that's grown and grown, and that's what I want to see in the future. I want to see fandom. It doesn't have to be online. It could be in person. It could be, on the phone. It doesn't matter. I want to see it grow. Everyone up here I know and made friends with because of fandom, and in our own way we all nurtured each other. And I have so many friends that I owe a huge debt to in terms of not just talking about my favorite toy of the year, but supporting me as a person. And all of us have that person in our lives, with those people in our lives, and I think we can be that for each other. We can be excellent to each other, and I've seen it, and I hope it keeps happening. That's my hope for the future.
I agree on that. I mean, it's always nice to see, you know, the generation passed down, the passion of this line, just being passed down from father to son or mother to daughter, and it's just, it warms my heart, and I hope that continues. And it's wonderful to be a part of such a wonderfully huge family.
As a father of twin daughters that are really into rescue bots right now, I'm just thrilled at things like Victorion that are coming, and just the female presence. And it's really cool that they don't have to be the trailblazers. They've got role models like Claire and all the females here, that it's like, it's okay now to just grow up and be a female Transformer fan, and they are already. I mean, they're little, but you know, I think for me, you know, what I would hope for the fandom is sort of a breaking down of some of those perceived boundaries and some of those perceived borders. And I say perceived because here we are, like, we're sitting on a panel and we're all buddies. Like, we could like to get together and well, you know. And so, you know, one of the things that I don't know, I think what we're kind of trying to experiment with is this idea of sharing resources about a community that can come together. Maybe not even a community, but something like, well, one of the things we're working on that we're kind of shrugging, going, oh, this is interesting, but who knows, is this TFDB, it's called. It's like IMDb for Transformers. And we're kind of collaborating with a couple people who are sitting up here, even, that we're you know, trying to figure out how to interlink and share what you guys all want in a place that it can be a portal to Ben's side, it can be a portal to Ryan's side, it can be a portal to just getting information out there, without a sense of trying to self-promote, but just to get you guys the information that you want. So, you know, something to check out. It's on the app stores. Let us know if you like it. We're looking to collaborate with more and more people, because I think that's my biggest hope, is that it's not about necessarily any one of us, but it's about how do we get the best. It's all about John, actually.
All right,
I have no problem shamelessly self-promoting.
You want to ask?
I was going to say one other thing. Anybody came to the Fan Film Festival yesterday? A few of you? I wanted to apologize to everybody because I had a new video, and I spent all night trying to get it on DVD because that's what they asked for, and I forgot it after I got it on DVD. So if you go to my YouTube channel, youtube.com/John3.0, there's a brand new video out that I just published.
Back. I'm going to show you what it takes to get out alive from some of the most dangerous places on site.
It's Bot versus Wild. If you're a Discovery Channel fan, hopefully you'll enjoy it.
So any questions for us? Comments?
You have to raise your hand so they can find a microphone.
We don't bite.
Headmaster Dave.
Where's our mic guy? There he is. Mic man. Or is he going to tell us? We don't have time for any microphones.
Headmaster Don out there.
The man, the myth, the legend.
I'm personally thankful to Headmaster Don because that RC toy is awesome, and I think he had a lot to do with it.
I'm more credit than I deserve, but thank you. Just real quick, Ben, you've been around on the web probably since its beginning, like a lot of us, as far as a presence. What do you think is the most fundamental change in the online fandom? Was it the movies coming on board for the Transformers fandom, or was it something more like the internet getting off of ATT and becoming these other things, or was it something else altogether? The one point that you think it changed forever?
I'll tell you, and I won't speak for everybody, I'll tell you the moment everything changed for me was the year 1996-ish that I was invited to Toy Fair. And at that time I was the only website that was invited to Toy Fair. Now, it wasn't this whiz-bang wonderful thing they do now. Back then, what they did was they invited me at the last day. Literally everyone had left the building, like all the presenters and stuff. There were like ladders everywhere, wood was being taken down, but they still had the Transformers toys on the shelves. And the head of PR at the time, wonderful woman, she's not with the company anymore, she just said, okay, go take pictures. And I'm like, pictures? I didn't have a camera, so I had to run out and buy like an instant clicky camera. And there was no glitz, there was no glamour. But I was like, wait a minute, why is there no one here? And she said, oh, all the retailers have gone through here already, all the press, you know, back then it was all like Tomarks and those guys, they've been through here already. I'm just, you know, as a courtesy, because we appreciate your enthusiasm, we're letting you in. And I'm like, something just happened here. And I realized Hasbro actually sees fandom, not me, but fandom, as a potent force in the development of their product.
And now websites are the best press they get.
Look where it's gone. I mean, right? I mean, it's Toy Fair is like crazy. I mean,
yes, it's a really insane event that we attend every year now. It's
incredible.
Yeah,
yeah.
It's cool, and we're very fortunate that we get to.
Can you imagine back in those days, like?
I'm jealous that you got to do it that long. I didn't. I was until 2007. So
that was around when we started.
Yeah, too. That was a big year for me.
Well, and all of a sudden it's like, oh, they recognize we exist and they care. That was done. I think that was the huge inflection point, because all of a sudden and I'm not just saying me. I mean everyone in this room, everyone on this stage, we mattered. Because for the longest time I think we felt helpless, like, oh, we're just beholden to whatever they give us, whatever scraps they throw out. Now all of a sudden we had a voice. It was a small voice, but here we are 20 years later, and that voice is louder than ever, and it's only going to get louder. We're growing as a fandom. Isn't that incredible? We are growing, not shrinking, which we did already. We did the shrinking. Come on.
My moment wasn't necessarily a Transformers moment, but my first year doing voices professionally, I was telling him from Hasbro this yesterday, I got the job doing the voice for some Star Wars toys, and one of the ladies I worked with, who was really, really fun, toy designer from Hasbro, and she was just so much fun. She used to work on Transformers, and I got hired for several other jobs after that because of that relationship, and it was the very first time that I was ever called a voice actor by somebody. But somebody from Hasbro said, "You're my favorite voice actor to work with. I love working with you." I was like, that was just like, and I loved Hasbro so much. That was just like so much fun.
That's awesome.
We gotta go. I think we just talk for the next hour. There's nothing else going on, right?
If soon, if John can do it, we can just hang out for here.
They love the fans so much, they're just going to leave us.
You guys don't want to say anything from Hasbro today, right?
Yeah, Hasbro panel is next. I think we're going to shoot off, right?
Hey, thank you guys for hanging out with us. This has been a lot of fun.
Love you guys.
And for you Hasbro folks, Jason's spilled the water.
You guys are why we think it's time. You are.